Good evening. From the halls of the Governor's Office, I'm Josue Vasquez. It's my privilege and distinct honor to interview California Judicial Appointment Secretary Luis Céspedes. Thank you so much for taking the time and sitting down with us today.
It's nice to be here. Thank you very much.
Secretary Céspedes, in a recent panel discussion you sat on called Demystifying the Judicial Appointment Process for the California Judicial Mentor Program, you quoted former Senator Feingold, who stated, "California judicial selection process is unique, least political, and it's the most intense, and it's reflected in the quality of the judiciary." Secretary Céspedes, please talk to us briefly about the importance of the California Judicial Mentor Program.
Well, again, thank you for that question. For decades, judges have been selected really by other judges. If you were in court, public defender or DA, you did a great trial or you did well in a motion, often those judges would call you in and say, you did a fantastic job in the trial, would you like to be a judge one day? And if you do, let me help you along the way. And if you ask most judges today in California, vast majority would say that's how they decided to apply. And that would include, of course, trial lawyers in the civil area and maybe family law lawyers. But if you were a general counsel to a large firm or you did transactional work or immigration law, you might not be able to access a judge. Or if you're a woman or somebody who's from a different racial or ethnic background, maybe there might be a hesitancy to interrupt a judge after a quick case and ask what it's like to be a judge. So in Los Angeles, with my predecessor's efforts, Justice Marvin Jenkins and presiding Judge Eric Taylor, and former presiding Judge Eric Taylor, I should say, and former presiding Judge Kevin Brazil, the mentor program began in Los Angeles, only for Los Angeles. When I took over, it had not yet been implemented, but I saw the benefits of doing just that, making judges available to prospective applicants to the bench throughout California. So the governor launched the California Judicial Mentor Program with strong leadership. We have Judge Paul Bacigalupo, who chairs our executive committee, and we have justices and judges on that committee. And there are two aspects to the program. One is outreach, where the judicial selection process is being discussed with various bar groups or affinity bar groups. And the second is mentoring. And we've had tremendous success with judges wanting to be mentors. Mentorship is absolutely critical. In my own career, I've had wonderful mentors that have sort of guided me along in my career, both formal and informal. And we have recognized one thing. When people do not apply, it's often because of what we call this imposter phenomenon. That just means people don't think that they are ready, that they may be a public defender and governors haven't appointed public defenders, or I might be an immigration lawyer, I do removal defense in the federal court, but I don't have state court experience, or maybe I've had a DUI 15 years ago and I don't think I should apply. Well, the mentor program is designed to help candidates learn about the judicial selection process more specifically, and help them identify areas of strength or weaknesses that they can focus on in the 74-question PDQ. Mentors also have a chance to learn more about what it's like to be a judge. If you're a civil attorney, you might get a judge assigned to a criminal division, and they'll probably walk you through what a trial is and how to get more experience yourself by trying a case, volunteer with the city attorney or the DA's office to enhance your ability to say, yes, I've tried a case, or I know the evidence code. So the mentor program, it does those three things. One, recruits prospective applicants to apply, does outreach to educate lawyers about the process, and number three, it helps people overcome this imposter phenomenon. It's been an extraordinarily successful program, and we've expanded it to the appellate court. We have an appellate mentor program where judges or lawyers who do appellate work can get assigned an appellate justice. And the beauty of that is if you argue in the 3rd DCA, which is in Sacramento, 3rd District Court of Appeal, you might get a mentor judge from the 1st District Court of Appeal in San Francisco. that makes it a benefit. And of course, in the mentor program, if you're a partner in a firm and you don't want your partners to know that you're considering being a judge, you can get a mentor from another county. It works very well. And so I think the mentor program will go a long way toward expanding our applicant pool, educating lawyers about what it's like to be a judge and how to navigate through the process. And as Judge Feingold said, we have the best selection process because we have a very vigorous vetting system. We have judicial selection advisory committees, state bar review committees, and a Jenny commission that reviews all of our applications. And Jenny stands for the Commission on Judicial Nominees Evaluation. So all in all, it's a wonderful program, and I look forward to continuing to work with our wonderful team that manages the program. Thank you.
Secretary Céspedes, as you travel around this great state, what are you hearing from judges on the ground level about the California Judicial Mentor Program?
Well, thank you again. Judges are really extremely pleased, and I will add, not only is there a mentor program for the trial court, but we have an appellate mentor program for any judge or appellate lawyer that wants to go on the appellate court. Today we have about 65 participants in that program. There was initially a pilot program and now statewide, and even judges need to be mentored by other judges, so that's important. As to the trial court, presiding judges recognize that we have vacancies. Currently we have approximately 71 vacancies around the state in all 58 counties, and when there's a vacancy, there are significant issues, particularly post-COVID-19, with the backup of civil trials that now have to move forward. Criminal trials have always been advanced because of constitutional protections, but we really need judges for one reason, and that is access to justice. We need judges to handle family law matters, child support issues, dependency issues, issues involving unlawful detainers, small claims, traffic. Throughout the pandemic, these courts continued to remain open, and the mentor program assured judges that we were going to have not only a vibrant and diverse applicant pool, but that we're going to make strides in replacing those judges who decided after the pandemic they didn't want to serve anymore. So it's important that we have aggressive outreach and aggressive mentoring to make sure that these vacancies are filled at the earliest opportunity. Again, we have to serve the public, and the administration of justice is significant. Not only that, we have to make sure that criminal defendants who do not waive trials can have a speedy trial, and these are statutory and constitutional protections.
You went on to state in that interview that the judiciary, as Hamilton said, and as we learned after January 6th, is the cornerstone of our democracy. Secretary Céspedes, please talk to us about the importance of the judiciary and why you believe it's the cornerstone of our democracy.
Well, we are a nation of laws. We have a constitution that was established to provide fundamental rights. We have a Bill of Rights, a First Amendment right to free assembly and also freedom of press and freedom of religion, and that is fundamental to our country. And when we describe these rights, they aren't technicalities. These are important reasons why we are a society that has the rule of law. And judges administer these laws. They interpret them on the appellate court, the Supreme Court, and they utilize them in all of our trials. One of the things that Hamilton or Madison said in the Federalist 51 is this, quote, "Justice is the end goal of government. It is the end of civil society. It ever has been and ever will be pursued until it be obtained, or until liberty be lost in the pursuit," end quote. What they're trying to say is the reason we have a government is to make sure that our system has a vehicle for litigants to resolve conflicts without resorting to violence. We have a system where if there's a wrongful death and somebody commits this wrongful death by, say, driving drunk, that they're not going to use self-help and go and shoot the person. It may not be a crime because it was negligence. So we have a system of courts that allows a grieving parent or a spouse to get economic justice. This is important because, as the founder said, justice is the end of society. It is also important to understand that in totalitarian societies, judges are oftentimes the jury and they're the prosecutor, and they act in a way that is completely devoid of any either checks and balances or any way that the system is fair. Many judges get bought off. In the United States of America, we have a judicial system that is built around trust and confidence in having judges that are fair, that are impartial, and more importantly, independent. And our nation is a nation of laws, not of men. As those of you who watched January 6th, you saw an attempted insurrection against our government because people were not satisfied with the results of an election. They didn't pay attention to 62 out of 63 judges that said that that election was lawful, that President Biden was in fact duly elected. We cannot have that repeated. We cannot have a nation where violence is the answer, and the cornerstone of our democracy is a judicial system where there are rules, where we have evidence, where we have right to counsel, where we have due process, and where disputes are resolved without violence. That is why the Founding Fathers said the purpose, indeed the end of society, is justice. And that's why I love the job that we're doing. The governor is committed to making sure that we have judges who are fair and impartial and understand the rule of law.
And what is the best part about your job?
Well, Josue, one of the things that I have always aspired to do, and it took me a long time to get back to public service. Public service is just the highest calling, I think, for anyone, whether you go in the military or you become a police officer or you work in government. So the best part of my job is public service. But the real reality is I get to be a part of Governor Gavin Newsom's legacy. Governors will sign bills and enact statutes, develop budgets, and those will come and go. But judges remain for decades, and they reflect the values that we just discussed of an administration. And so to have this humble and honorable position to recommend judges that are part of the governor's legacy is really important. The second thing that I get to do is work with a wonderful group of folks, not just Deputy Judicial Department Secretary Debbie Kuhn, but my former deputy, now Justice Gonzalo Martinez, and current Judicial Appointments Deputy or Deputy Judicial Appointments Secretary Adam Hoffman. We are a team, and it's wonderful working with such a great team and having an opportunity really to meet remarkable people around California, men and women from all walks of life, lawyers and judges who have devoted their life to the administration of justice and representing people throughout our state, and getting to know them not just on a resume, but as people. What is their story? What makes them tick? Why do they want to serve? And that is one of the joys that I have in my job. And of course, as a practical matter, meeting with the governor, reviewing judicial applicants, he's very much engaged in the process. He reads everything, and that is the high point. But the high point for me was what I did today, which is call 16 new people and tell them, Mrs. X, it's my honor and privilege to inform you that Governor Gavin Newsom of the great state of California has appointed you to the trial court in blank county. Congratulations, felicidades. And they are overwhelmed. It is a life-changing experience. Some are very quiet, they can't speak, but most of them break down in tears because it's a lifelong goal of theirs. And to be a small part of this transformation of their careers and to watch them excel, it really is the high point, I think, of the governor and our mission to make sure our judiciary does reflect the richness of California and the brain trust that we have in this great state.
And before I move on to the next few questions, I want our viewers from home to know that the issue of equal representation on the bench has existed well before Secretary Céspedes took office, and he has made great strides in improving that, as shown in a recent data report by the Judicial Council. The California Judicial Bench has grown more diverse in the last 17 years. And with this in mind, a 2022 report published by the State Bar of California states that there are approximately 195,000 active licensed attorneys in California, and the analysis shows that the state's active attorney population does not reflect the state's diversity. With such report, it comes as no surprise that Latinos make up 36% of California's 18 and up population, while Latino judges make up only 7% of the state bar. Secretary Céspedes, please talk to us about your efforts to close this gap and reach your goal of making the judiciary more reflective of California's diversity.
Josue, this is one of the challenges and one of the reasons I took this job, because throughout my life I've been working very hard to make sure that we advance our cause of making sure that people have equal opportunities, not only in the legal profession, but in other professions and now in the judiciary. So what I would say is this. I think what you meant was we have almost 40% of the population that are Latino, Latina, and yet only 7% are attorneys, and that number is correct. It's actually 6.98%. After Proposition 209, we did see a drop-off in the number of people of color who are admitted to the University of California. That has since changed, but the numbers continue to be low in the graduate areas, not just, frankly, in law, but also in medicine. So one of the most important things we're trying to do is to get judges engaged in participating in mock trials, getting young people as early as 6th grade start thinking about whether they want to be lawyers, whether they can meet this challenge of passing the bar exam, which is another issue, making sure that we have law schools that are accredited that also attempt to increase the number of folks, and we're seeing that. The number of both men and women are increasing, and if you saw recently, the number of UC admittees who are California residents has increased significantly. So I'm very optimistic that that will change. But there are economic challenges, and that is getting through undergraduate school, getting through graduate school. For many persons from low income, that continues to be a challenge, especially as tuition rises. So we need lawyers to step in to provide financial support by way of scholarships, by way of additional money, so people who are taking the bar can get some help, and that is working as well. But getting judges engaged in civics and civic education, encouraging people to think about law as a career is very critical. In fact, we mentioned earlier the mentor program. We now know that many of the judges who are mentors are actually going into the law schools. In some countries, lawyers right out of law school start studying to become judges. That in Japan, for example, we now have judges going out and speaking in their efforts to recruit more folks, to encourage them. One way we do that is working with the California Latino Judges Association, the Hispanic Bar, the Mexican American Bar in Los Angeles, the Cruz Reynoso Bar Association in Sacramento, and all of those efforts go toward encouraging folks to look at a legal career and then early in their career think about becoming judges. The Constitution has only one requirement for the trial court, and that is you have to have 10 years. So that is the gap. So once we get people through law school and past the bar, they still need 10 years of practice before they can even get appointed. So you can see why this is so important. The work must continue. But I'm very optimistic because I'm seeing real changes in those numbers, and the commitment for folks to serve on the bench is also increasing. So I think we'll continue to see those numbers rise in terms of diversity.
This discrepancy in representation is felt more on the ground level with California Superior Court judges. In a report by Governor Newsom's 2022 judicial appointment data, it reports that whites make up white Superior Court judges make up 61.4% of the Superior Court judges, and Latinos make up only about 12.5% of its Superior Court judgeships. Secretary Céspedes, I want to believe that greater pastures wait for us across this hill, but with only 20 Latino candidates for judicial appointment in 2020, representing 14% of applicants, I'm afraid this problem may not only outlive your term in office, but even my lifetime. Secretary Céspedes, what are 3 long-term solutions you believe Californians should focus on to make sure that the efforts you have made in closing the gap are not in vain?
Well, let me give you some updated numbers. As of 2023, it's not 20, it's well in excess of 90. And as the report notes, the percentage of persons of color that the governor has appointed is about 59%, and the majority, the largest group, have been from our community, that is to say the Latina community. Parity exists, frankly, with the African American community and the API community. We have a lot more work to do with Native Americans as well as people with qualified disabilities, and in particular women. If you saw the statistic, it's about 38% of trial court judges are women. We need to increase that significantly. So there's a lot more work to do. But I will tell you what needs to be done, and that is the following. As I mentioned earlier, we need to make sure that we are reaching out and expanding the applicant pool. That means encouraging people to apply to the bench. And I will tell you, I recently interviewed a Latino candidate that the governor appointed to the Central Valley, and he said he would never have applied but for the mentor program. He just didn't see himself as a public defender, somebody that would be ready for the bench. And in fact, when he went through the 3 vetting committees, the Jenny Commission, the Judicial Nominees Evaluation Committee, our own Judicial Selection Advisory Committee, and the local county bar in the Valley, they rated him exceptionally well qualified. And here is somebody that had this imposter phenomenon. He's now on the bench. But again, it requires effort. People need to see themselves as judges, and judges who are African American are excellent models for African American folks who want to be on the bench. Women continue to reach out to other women. The California Women Lawyers Association has been doing an outstanding job, and I said that number needs to increase. I will tell you, in the 3rd District Court of Appeal, as you know, that we have an equal number of women and men on the Court of Appeal. That is now as a result of the governor appointing 3 women, including the presiding judge, Lori Earle, more recently, Amy Feinberg, Judge Bulwe Yuri, and Justice Shama Masawala. Those are the last 4 appointments we've made, and they're all women and women with diverse backgrounds. Justice Earle is LGBTQ+. The Supreme Court has an equal number of men and women. And as I mentioned earlier, we have the first Latina to lead that court, Chief Justice Patricia Guerrero, who also is the head of the Judicial Council. Why is that important? Because now other lawyers and judges see themselves now in these roles. So having mentorship, having role models, and doing very, very rigorous recruitment. So I spend a significant amount of time speaking to various groups. I will tell you, one of the groups that has been working very hard in this effort have been unity bars. We started a unity bar in Sacramento in 1987, and with the efforts and support of Chief of Justice Martin Jenkins and others, there are now 14 unity bars. These are affinity bars organizations: Jewish bar, Latino bar, African American, women, LGBTQ+, plus the regular county bars, and our Asian bar associations coming together to find common ground and to work hard to increase not only their membership, but persons who are interested in appointing and becoming judges. But this is hard work, and you have to have a governor that has the political will and the vision. And as you may know, in 2019, Governor Newsom made his inaugural address, and his mission statement was very simple: California for all. And that is not mere rhetoric. That's why those numbers are where you are. We are not lowering anyone's standards. You will see, as I have mentioned, that the judges we're appointing are those that meet not only the standards of being able to control a courtroom, know the evidence code, deal with pro se litigants in a respectful way, make tough decisions with courage and with independence, but they also come from backgrounds that heretofore have not existed on the court. And why is that important? Because the rule of law will not be legitimate unless people believe that the judges are fair. And when a judge only looks like one group, people will walk out of a courtroom wondering if they've been heard. But when you see a judiciary that looks like you, that knows your story, that perhaps speaks your language, or you're an LGBTQ judge and you're going through the problems of coming out as a teenager, and you have a youth in juvenile hall who's perhaps thinking about engaging in self-destruction, they hear a judge that's thinking about rehabilitation, that knows their stories. It's very, very powerful. Justice Sonia Sotomayor on the Supreme Court said something very important in a dissent. In fact, it was the dissent in the recent affirmative action case. And she said, and I quote, "You must acknowledge inequality to achieve equality." That is the first step. And this governor has acknowledged that the judiciary historically has not been as adequately representative of the state, and he acknowledges that, and we're doing everything we can to make it equal. Now, will other governors follow in this path? We only hope that they will, but it's up to Californians to make sure that the people that we elect, whether it's in the legislature or in the governor's seat in the next elections, have this same commitment. And young people need to register, they need to vote, they need to express their view that this journey that we're on continues. That is what makes our country great, and this is how we come together as a nation when people vote and say, this is what we want. And this governor was elected with over 60% of the vote. When he first ran, he was challenged in a recall, and he was significantly voted with excess of 55% of the vote, and then he ran for election again. He's had 3 elections, and every time he's run, he said, California for all, and the people have spoken, and we are fulfilling that desire. So that's how a democracy works, and that's why the work we're doing here is so important, to make sure that the aspirations of the people of California are fulfilled, at least as far as the judiciary is concerned.
In a message given 10 years ago by then Chief Justice Tani Kantil-Sakawi on restoring access to justice, she talks about access 3D, physical, remote, and equal. She states equal access means, among other things, supporting a diverse judicial branch at all levels to benefit the public and to reflect the vast diversity of the state. Secretary Céspedes, why do you believe that a more reflective judiciary of California is important? And how do Californians benefit when its judicial system reflects the diversity of its state?
Well, in the 2000 census, I always remind folks, California hit a very interesting point in our history, and that is there are no minorities. And why is that? Because there are no majorities. We are extraordinarily diverse. We have, if you go to a public school, you'll find languages spoken now maybe exceed 30 or 40 different languages in most public schools. We are a state that has, since the gold rush, attracted immigrants from all over the world who have been successful in starting businesses, and some in the Silicon Valley are changing the world and how we view it. California has always been a state that encourages people to come and get educated, start businesses, and excel. And the people who come here should have a government that reflects not only our values, but their own selves. And the legitimacy of our laws and the legitimacy of our judges and people's faith in our judicial system requires that our judges reflect that diversity. It's so important to have people who can look like us and think like us and know our experiences, also being able to administer justice. Otherwise, you have a system that is closed, and that's not what our democracy is about. A democratic, pluralistic society requires everyone at the table and everyone making the critical decisions that make our system work. And so, again, access to justice, equal protection under the law, due process, and the legitimacy of our decisions. You have to remember, judges have no army and they can't raise money. The only thing they have is the law. And if people have faith in their decisions, have faith in the law, our democracy will be saved. If they don't, we are in big, big trouble. If we have politicians that interfere with decisions, interfere with the judicial process, we're going to be a country that we won't recognize. But America is great because we have a constitution and we have the rule of law, and that's the difference.
And I would like to end with a quote from Gloria Molina, who became the first Latina woman to be elected to the California state legislatures back in 1982. I want young people to realize we may have been the ones that started it, that the fight has just begun. Where we come from and our culture is very important to take into our leadership positions as well. Secretary Céspedes, thank you for being a dear friend to us all. I have full faith in you and your office to continue to make the great strides in your efforts to make the judiciary more reflective of California's diversity.
Well, thank you for this conversation. I knew Gloria Molina personally. We both worked together for Senator Art Torres. I was very saddened when she recently passed away. Thank you for ending on that quote.
Appreciate it. Thank you.